The sun shone brightly on the Pride lands, warming the tall grasses of the savanna. From Pride Rock, Kion surveyed his home. As leader of the Lion Guard, it was his duty to protect everyone who lived within its borders. He looked over the familiar landscape, from the watering hole where zebras gathered to the rocky outcrops where baboons chattered. Everything seemed peaceful, but Kion knew that danger could lurk anywhere. The Lion Guard, made up of Bunga the honey badger, Fully the cheetah, Besh the hippo, and Ono the egret, were always ready for action. They were the bravest, fastest, strongest, and keenest of sight in the Pride lands, and together they kept the peace. Kion was proud to lead such a courageous team. Kion, Besh called out, his voice booming across the plains. There's trouble near the east border. Some jackals are causing problems for the gazelles. Kion nodded. Lion Guard, let's go. With a mighty roar, Kion led his team towards the trouble. He felt the familiar surge of responsibility. Protecting the Pride lands was a heavy burden, but he knew he could count on his friends. As they raced across the savanna, Kion thought about his father, Simba, and the lessons he had learned. He knew that being a leader meant more than just being strong. It meant being fair, honest, and always putting the needs of others first. He hoped he could live up to his father's example and keep the Pride lands safe for everyone. He trusted his team and believed in their abilities, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The jackals scattered as the Lion Guard arrived, their tails between their legs. Kion roared, sending them fleeing into the outlands. That should teach them to bother the gazelles, he said, turning to Besht. Thanks for the warning, big guy. No problem, Kion, Besht replied with a smile. Always happy to help. As the Lion Guard patrolled the border, Ono spotted something unusual. Hapana, there's smoke rising from the far side of the whispering savanna, he reported. It looks like a fire, but it's spreading fast. Kion's eyes narrowed. A fire in the whispering savanna could quickly spread to the Pride lands, endangering countless animals. We need to check it out, he said urgently. Fully, you're the fastest. Scout ahead and see what's happening. Fully sped off like a bolt of lightning, disappearing into the tall grass. The rest of the Lion Guard followed at a slightly slower pace, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Something didn't feel right. Fires were rare in the whispering savanna, especially this close to the Pride lands. When Fully returned, her expression was grim. It's not just a fire, Kion, she said breathlessly. It looks like someone set it on purpose. And I saw hyenas near the flames. A whole pack of them. Kion's suspicions were confirmed. This wasn't just an accident. It was a deliberate act of aggression. Janja and his clan, he growled. They're always causing trouble. Janja was a constant thorn in Kion's side, always scheming to disrupt the peace of the Pride lands. This time, it seemed he had gone too far. We have to stop them before the fire spreads, Kion declared. Lion Guard, let's move. As the Lion Guard approached the fire, they saw Janja and his hyenas dancing around the flames, laughing maniacally. The fire was spreading rapidly, fueled by the dry grass and a strong wind. The heat was intense, and the air was thick with smoke. Janja, Kion roared, his voice filled with anger. Stop this at once. Janja turned, a wicked grin on his face. Well, he cackled. If it isn't Kion and his little friends. What are you going to do, Lion Guard? Put out the fire with your tears. We're going to stop you, Janja, Kion replied, his eyes blazing. And you're going to pay for what you've done. The Lion Guard charged into action. Besht used his immense size to stomp out the flames, while Fully raced around the fire, creating a barrier of cleared ground. Ono directed Bunga, who fearlessly jumped into the heart of the fire, using his honey badger claws to tear away burning debris. Kion, with his powerful roar, pushed back the hyenas, keeping them away from his team. Suddenly, a figure leaped from the shadows, landing between Kion and Janja. It was a young lion, slightly smaller than Kion, but with a fierce look in his eyes. He had a thick, dark mane and a muscular build. Leave them alone, Janja, the young lion roared, his voice surprisingly deep. This fire is endangering everyone. Janja sneered. Who do you think you are, kid? But out of this. The young lion ignored Janja and turned to Kion. I can help you stop the fire, he said. I know this area well. Kion hesitated for a moment, sizing up the newcomer. He seemed sincere, and his offer was tempting. All right, Kion said. Show us what you can do. Without a word, the young lion sprang into action. He moved with incredible speed and agility, leaping over flames and tearing through burning bushes. He seemed to know exactly where to strike, to create fire breaks and redirect the flames. He worked tirelessly alongside the lion guard, his strength and determination evident in every move. Bunga, covered in soot, watched the young lion in amazement. Whoa, this guy's got some serious skills, he exclaimed, fully nodded in agreement. He's fast, too, almost as fast as me. Even Besht was impressed. He's strong, the hippo said, stronger than he looks. Working together, the lion guard and the young lion managed to contain the fire, preventing it from spreading further into the Pride Lands. Finally, with a combined effort, they extinguished the last of the flames. Janja and his hyenas, defeated and frustrated, slunk away into the shadows. We'll be back, Janja snarled, disappearing into the darkness. As the smoke cleared, Kion turned to the young lion. Thank you, he said sincerely. You were a great help. What's your name? Rafe, the young lion replied, panting slightly. My name is Rafe. Kion smiled. Well, Rafe, you've certainly proven yourself today. You're strong, skilled, and brave. I'm impressed. He paused, considering his next words carefully. Rafe, would you be interested in joining the Lion Guard? Rafe's eyes widened in surprise. Join the Lion Guard? He repeated, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Are you serious? Absolutely, Kion replied, smiling. You have the strength, the skill, and the courage. You clearly care about protecting the Pride Lands. What do you say? Rafe hesitated for a moment, then a broad grin spread across his face. I would be honored, he said. Great, Kion exclaimed. Welcome to the Lion Guard, Rafe. The rest of the Lion Guard cheered, welcoming Rafe to their team. Bunga gave him a friendly punch on the shoulder, while Fully offered a playful smirk. Besht gave him a hearty pat on the back. Ono simply nodded his head in approval. The next morning, Kion began Rafe's training. He started with the basics, patrolling the Pride Lands, identifying potential threats, and working as a team. Rafe was a quick learner, absorbing information like a sponge. He excelled at physical challenges, easily outperforming the other members of the Lion Guard in strength and speed. Kion was impressed by Rafe's natural abilities, but he also knew that being a member of the Lion Guard was about more than just physical prowess. It was about upholding the circle of life, protecting the weak, and always doing what was right. Remember, Rafe, Kion said, being a member of the Lion Guard is a great responsibility. You have to be brave, honest, and loyal. You have to put the needs of others before your own. Rafe nodded, his expression serious. I understand, Kion, he said. I won't let you down. But as he said those words, Kion couldn't help but notice a flicker of uncertainty in Rafe's eyes. A shadow seemed to pass over his face, hinting at a past that he was trying to hide. Days turned into weeks, and Rafe continued his training. He could run faster than Fully, lift heavier objects than Besht, and even hold his own against Bunga in a wrestling match. However, Kion noticed that Rafe struggled with certain aspects of being a Lion Guard member. One day, while patrolling near the river, they came across a group of crocodiles harassing a family of turtles. Kion immediately sprang into action, roaring at the crocodiles and driving them away. Rafe, however, hesitated. He seemed reluctant to engage, even though the turtles were clearly in danger. Later, Kion confronted Rafe about his hesitation. Why didn't you help, he asked. The turtles needed our protection. Rafe shrugged. Crocodiles have to eat too, he said. It's the circle of life. Kion frowned. It's the Lion Guard's duty to protect those who can't protect themselves, he said, even if it means going against the natural order sometimes. On another occasion, Kion asked Rafe to be honest about a mistake he had made during a training exercise. Rafe initially tried to deny it, but Kion pressed him, emphasizing the importance of honesty and accountability. Rafe eventually admitted his mistake, but he seemed uncomfortable doing so. Loyalty also proved to be a challenge for Rafe. He often spoke about the importance of looking out for oneself and prioritizing one's own needs. Kion tried to explain that being a member of the Lion Guard meant being loyal to the team and to the Pride Lands, even when it was difficult. Kion was starting to worry about Rafe. He had the potential to be a great member of the Lion Guard, but his struggles with courage, honesty, and loyalty were holding him back. Kion knew he needed to find out more about Rafe's past if he wanted to help him overcome these challenges. Something was clearly influencing his behavior, and Kion was determined to uncover the truth. He decided it was time to have a serious talk with Rafe. One evening, as the sun began to set, Kion approached Rafe. They were sitting by a small watering hole, the only sound the gentle lapping of water. "Rafe," Kion began, his voice gentle but firm, "I've noticed that you've been struggling with some of the values of the Lion Guard. Courage, honesty, loyalty, these are all important to us." Rafe looked down, avoiding Kion's gaze. He kicked a small pebble into the water. "I'm trying, Kion," he mumbled. "I know you are," Kion replied. "But I think there's something you're not telling me. Something from your past that's making it difficult for you to fully embrace these values." Rafe remained silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. It's not something I like to talk about." "I understand," Kion said. "But if you want to be a true member of the Lion Guard, you need to be honest with me. I can't help you if I don't know what's going on." Rafe sighed deeply. He looked up at Kion, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and shame. "It's my past," he said. "Where I come from." Kion waited patiently, giving Rafe the space he needed to speak. He could sense the pain and conflict within Rafe, and he knew that it would take time and trust for him to open up. He wanted to help Rafe, but he also knew that he couldn't force him to reveal his secrets. He had to earn Rafe's trust and let him share his story in his own time. "Take your time, Rafe," Kion said softly. "I'm here to listen whenever you're ready." Rafe took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the watering hole. The setting sun cast long, distorted shadows, mirroring the turmoil within him. "I wasn't raised in the Pride Lands," he began, his voice heavy with regret. "I was raised by the Shadow Pride." Kion's ears perked up. He had heard whispers of a Shadow Pride, a group of lions known for their ruthlessness and disregard for the circle of life. They were outlaws, living in the shadows near the Pride Lands, preying on the weak and stealing from others. "The Shadow Pride?" Kion asked, his voice laced with surprise. Rafe nodded, his eyes filled with shame. They weren't good lions. They believed in taking what they wanted, no matter the cost. Strength was the only thing that mattered to them. He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I was just a cub when I was taken in by their leader, a lion named Scarfang. He taught me how to fight, how to steal, how to survive in the harsh outlands. He taught me that the only way to get ahead was to be stronger and more ruthless than everyone else." Rafe shuddered, as if reliving a painful memory. "I saw things, terrible things. Lions fighting over scraps of food, cubs being abandoned, innocent animals being terrorized. It was a brutal and unforgiving life." He looked at Kion, his eyes pleading for understanding. "That's why I hesitated when the turtles were in danger. That's why I struggled with honesty and loyalty. I was raised to believe that those things didn't matter, that only strength and survival mattered." Kion listened intently, his heart filled with compassion for Rafe. He could now understand why Rafe had struggled with the values of the Lion Guard. He had been raised in a completely different world, a world where those values were meaningless. But Kion also saw a glimmer of hope in Rafe's eyes. He believed that Rafe could overcome his past and become a true hero. He just needed the right guidance and support. "But I don't want to be like them, Kion," Rafe continued, his voice filled with conviction. "I don't want to be ruthless or cruel. I want to be better. That's why I helped you stop the fire. That's why I want to be a member of the Lion Guard." He stood up, his gaze meeting Kion's with unwavering determination. "I know I have a lot to learn, and I know it won't be easy. But I promise you, Kion, I will do everything I can to be worthy of your trust. I want to be loyal to the Pride Lands. I want to protect the innocent. I want to be a force for good." Kion looked into Rafe's eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. He saw only sincerity and a genuine desire to change. He remembered his father's words. Everyone deserves a chance to choose their own path. A smile spread across Kion's face. I believe you, Rafe, he said. I believe you can be different. I believe you can be a great member of the Lion Guard. He placed a paw on Rafe's shoulder, a gesture of trust and support. It won't be easy, Kion cautioned. There will be challenges, and you'll have to work hard to overcome your past. But I'll be there to help you every step of the way. Rafe nodded, his eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you, Kion, he said. You won't regret this. As they stood there, silhouetted against the setting sun, Kion felt a surge of hope. He believed in Rafe's potential, and he was determined to help him unlock it. But deep down, a small voice of doubt lingered. Could someone truly escape their past? Could Rafe overcome the dark legacy of the Shadow Pride? Only time would tell. For now, Kion would trust his instincts and give Rafe the benefit of the doubt. But he would also keep a close eye on him, ready to intervene if Rafe ever strayed from the path of righteousness. The fate of the Pride Lands might depend on it. The next few days were relatively peaceful, allowing Rafe to continue his training and slowly integrate into the Lion Guard. But the calm was short-lived. Ono, soaring high above the Pride Lands, spotted a large group of jackals and hyenas massing near the western border, far larger than any group they had encountered before. Hapana, Ono cried, landing near Kion. There are hundreds of them. They're heading towards the Pride Lands, and they look like they mean trouble. Kion's heart sank. This wasn't just a minor border skirmish. This was a full-scale invasion. We need to warn everyone, he said urgently. Besht, go to Pride Rock and alert Simba. Tell him to gather the lionesses. Fully, scout ahead and see what they're planning. Bungo with me. We'll try to slow them down. He turned to Rafe, his expression serious. This is it, Rafe. This is what we've been training for. Now's your chance to prove your loyalty. Rafe nodded, his eyes filled with determination. I'm ready, Kion, he said. As they raced towards the western border, Kion couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The sheer number of attackers was alarming, and their coordinated movement suggested a level of organization that Janja and his hyenas had never possessed. Someone was behind this attack, someone with more power and influence than Janja. When they reached the border, they saw the horde of jackals and hyenas swarming towards them, their eyes gleaming with malice. Kion roared, unleashing the power of the Roar of the Elders, sending a shockwave that temporarily stunned the attackers. But there were simply too many of them. They surged forward, undeterred. We need to hold them back, Kion shouted. For the Pride Lands. He charged into the fray, Rafe right beside him, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. The battle for the Pride Lands had begun. The situation was dire, and the fate of their home hung in the balance. As Kion and Rafe fought side by side, pushing back the relentless wave of attackers, Rafe suddenly froze. His eyes widened in disbelief as he spotted a familiar figure leading the charge from the rear. It was Scarfang, the leader of the Shadow Pride, his former mentor and the lion who had raised him. Scarfang, Rafe whispered, his voice filled with shock. What's he doing here? Kion, noticing Rafe's distraction, roared at a group of hyenas, sending them scattering. What is it, Rafe? What's wrong? Rafe pointed toward Scarfang, his paw trembling. That's my old leader, from the Shadow Pride. He's the one behind all of this. Kion's heart sank. He had feared something like this might happen. Rafe's past had come back to haunt him, and now he was caught between his old life and his new one. Are you sure? Kion asked, his voice laced with concern. I'm sure, Rafe replied, his eyes filled with conflict. I know that lion. He's ruthless and cunning. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants. Kion realized the gravity of the situation. Scarfang's involvement meant that this wasn't just a random attack. It was a carefully planned invasion, orchestrated by a dangerous and formidable foe. And Rafe was caught in the middle, torn between his loyalty to the Pride Lands and his connection to his former family. Rafe, Kion said, his voice firm but compassionate, I need you to be honest with me. Are you with us, or are you with them? Rafe hesitated, his eyes darting between Kion and Scarfang. The weight of his past and the potential betrayal of his new friends hung heavy in the air. The choice he was about to make would determine not only his own fate, but also the fate of the Pride Lands. The conflict within him was palpable. Would he choose the darkness he knew, or the light he was just beginning to embrace? Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Rafe wrestled with his decision. He glanced at Scarfang, who was watching him intently, a menacing grin on his face. He knew that Scarfang expected him to join the Shadow Pride, to betray the Lion Guard and help them conquer the Pride Lands. It was what he had been trained for his entire life. But then he looked at Kion, his eyes filled with hope and trust. He remembered the kindness and compassion that Kion had shown him, the opportunity he had been given to change his life and become a better lion. He thought about the other members of the Lion Guard, his new friends, who had welcomed him with open arms. Rafe closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't let Scarfang and the Shadow Pride destroy the Pride Lands. He couldn't betray the trust that Kion had placed in him. He couldn't turn his back on the new life he had worked so hard to build. He opened his eyes, his gaze firm and resolute. "I'm with you, Kion," he declared, his voice ringing with conviction. "I'm with the Lion Guard. I will protect the Pride Lands, no matter what." Scarfang roared with anger, his eyes blazing with fury. "Traitor," he bellowed. "You will regret this, Rafe. You will pay for your betrayal." Rafe ignored Scarfang's threats and turned to Kion. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "I know Scarfang's tactics. I know how he thinks. I can help you defeat him." Kion smiled, relief washing over his face. He had made the right choice in trusting Rafe. "Then let's do it," he said. "Let's protect our home." The battle raged on, but now, with Rafe firmly on their side, the Lion Guard had a fighting chance. The tide was about to turn. But first, they had to survive Scarfang's wrath. However, Kion and Rafe were not alone when Rafe revealed his past. Fuli and Bunga had overheard the entire conversation. While Kion trusted Rafe's choice, the revelation of Rafe's connection to the Shadow Pride sent a ripple of suspicion through the rest of the Lion Guard. Fuli, ever cautious, voiced her concerns first. "Kion, are you sure about this?" she asked, her eyes narrowed. "He was raised by those outlaws. Can we really trust him?" Bunga, though usually optimistic, couldn't help but feel uneasy. "Yeah, Kion," he said. "What if this is all a trick? What if he's just trying to get close to us so he can betray us later?" Kion understood their concerns. He knew that Rafe's past was a red flag, and it was natural for his friends to be wary. But he had seen the sincerity in Rafe's eyes, and he believed that he deserved a chance to prove himself. "I know it's difficult to trust him," Kion said, "but I believe Rafe is telling the truth. He made his choice. We need to give him a chance to show us where his loyalty truly lies." Despite Kion's reassurances, Fuli and Bunga remained skeptical. Besht and Ono, arriving from Pride Rock, had also heard the news. They trusted Kion's judgment, but even they couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The Lion Guard, once united in their trust, was now divided by doubt and suspicion. Rafe, sensing the distrust around him, felt a pang of guilt and regret. He knew that his past had made it difficult for the others to accept him, and he couldn't blame them for their skepticism. He knew he had to work even harder to prove his loyalty and earn their trust. The battle against Scarfang was not only a fight for the Pride Lands, but also a fight for Rafe's redemption, and he was determined to win both. As the battle raged on, Kion pulled Rafe aside, away from the watchful eyes of the other Lion Guard members. The sounds of fighting echoed around them, a constant reminder of the danger they faced. "Rafe," Kion said, his voice low and serious, "I need to know for sure where your loyalty lies. I believed you when you said you were with us, but the others, they're not so sure. And honestly, neither am I right now." Rafe looked at Kion, his eyes filled with hurt and frustration. "I told you, Kion," he said. "I'm with you. I'm with the Pride Lands. I would never betray you." "Then prove it," Kion challenged. "Tell me everything you know about Scarfang's plan. Tell me how to defeat him." Rafe hesitated, a shadow passing over his face. I can't," he said. "If I tell you everything, I'll be putting my old pride in danger. Even though I don't agree with what they're doing, they're still family. Kion's expression hardened. So, you're still protecting them? He asked, his voice laced with disappointment. Even after everything they've done? Even after they attacked the Pride Lands? It's not like that, Kion, Rafe protested. It's just, I can't betray them completely. I still have some loyalty to them. Kion sighed, shaking his head. I don't understand, Rafe, he said. How can you be loyal to both sides? You have to choose. Are you with the Pride Lands, or are you with the Shadow Pride? There's no middle ground. He stepped closer to Rafe, his eyes searching his. This is your chance, Rafe, Kion pressed. Prove to me, prove to the Lion Guard, prove to yourself that you've truly changed. Tell me everything, or walk away, and I'll know that I made a mistake in trusting you. The weight of Kion's words hung heavy in the air, demanding a decision that would define Rafe's future. Rafe looked down, his paws shuffling in the dirt. The weight of Kion's words pressed down on him, forcing him to confront the conflict within his heart. He knew that Kion was right. He couldn't be loyal to both sides. He had to choose. Finally, he lifted his head, his eyes filled with a newfound resolve. All right, Kion, he said, his voice firm and clear. I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you how to defeat Scarfang. But you have to promise me something. What is it? Kion asked, his brow furrowed with suspicion. Promise me that you won't kill them. Rafe pleaded. Promise me that you'll give them a chance to surrender. They may be outlaws, but they're still lions. They deserve a chance to change, just like I did. Kion hesitated for a moment, considering Rafe's request. He didn't want to make any promises he couldn't keep, but he also knew that Rafe's knowledge of the Shadow Pride was crucial to their plan. I can't promise that no one will get hurt, Kion said, but I promise that we'll try to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. If they surrender, we'll spare them. Rafe nodded, satisfied with Kion's answer. He took a deep breath and began to reveal Scarfang's plan. He explained that Scarfang intended to use a secret passage through the Outlands to bypass the Lion Guard and launch a surprise attack on Pride Rock. He also revealed Scarfang's weaknesses, his fears, and the tactics he was most likely to use. As Rafe spoke, Kion listened intently, his mind racing to formulate a plan. He realized that Rafe's knowledge was their greatest weapon against Scarfang. With Rafe's help, they had a chance to turn the tide of the battle and save the Pride Lands. The trust was still fragile, but it was there, and it was enough to build a plan upon. Using Rafe's information, Kion devised a plan to intercept Scarfang and the Shadow Pride before they could reach Pride Rock. They would ambush them at the entrance to the secret passage, using the element of surprise to their advantage. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, the Lion Guard, with Rafe leading the way, stealthily made their way to the secret passage. The other Lion Guard members still regarded Rafe with suspicion, but they followed Kion's lead, trusting that he knew what he was doing. They reached the entrance to the passage and hid themselves among the rocks and shadows. Rafe pointed out the best vantage points and the most effective strategies for ambushing the Shadow Pride. His knowledge proved invaluable, even though his presence made some uneasy. Soon, they heard the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps. Scarfang and the Shadow Pride emerged from the Outlands, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. They were just steps away from launching their surprise attack on Pride Rock. Now, Kion roared, leaping from his hiding place. The Lion Guard sprang into action, catching the Shadow Pride completely off guard. A fierce battle erupted, the air filled with roars, growls, and the clash of claws. Kion faced off against Scarfang, their eyes locked in a fierce gaze. Rafe fought bravely alongside the Lion Guard, using his knowledge of the Shadow Pride's tactics to outmaneuver them. Fuli used her speed to disrupt the enemy ranks, while Besht used his strength to knock them off their feet. Bunga, fearless as ever, charged into the fray, causing chaos and confusion. Ono provided aerial support, scouting out enemy positions and directing the Lion Guard's attacks. The battle was fierce, but the Lion Guard, with Rafe's help, was holding its own. The fate of the Pride Lands would be decided here, in this final climactic showdown. Kion and Scarfang circled each other, their eyes locked in a battle of wills. "I'm disappointed in you, Rafe," Scarfang snarled. "I thought you were stronger than this. I thought you were one of us." Rafe stepped forward, placing himself between Kion and Scarfang. "I used to be," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "But I'm not anymore. I've learned what it means to be brave, honest, and loyal. I've learned what it means to protect those who can't protect themselves." He turned to Kion. "He's going to try to flank you," Rafe warned. "He always uses that move when he's losing." Kion nodded, anticipating Scarfang's tactic. As Scarfang lunged to the side, Kion was ready. He sidestepped the attack and unleashed the roar of the elders, sending Scarfang flying backwards. Rafe continued to call out Scarfang's moves, helping the Lion Guard anticipate his attacks and defend themselves. He knew every trick, every strategy, every weakness of the Shadow Pride, and he used that knowledge to their advantage. Fully used her speed to intercept the Shadow Pride members attempting to flank the Lion Guard, while Best used his strength to create a defensive barrier. Bunga, with Rafe's guidance, managed to disarm several of the Shadow Pride members, using his agility to avoid their attacks. Finally, after a long and arduous battle, Scarfang and the Shadow Pride were defeated. They lay scattered on the ground, exhausted and defeated. Kion stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Scarfang. "It's over, Scarfang," he said. "Surrender, and I promise you'll be spared." Scarfang looked at Rafe, his eyes filled with rage and betrayal. "You did this," he snarled. "You betrayed us." Rafe looked back at Scarfang, his expression filled with sadness and regret. "I did what I had to do," he said. "I chose the right path." Scarfang, seeing no other option, finally relented and surrendered. The remaining Shadow Pride members followed suit, laying down their arms. The Pride lands were safe, and Rafe had proven his loyalty beyond any doubt. With Scarfang and the Shadow Pride subdued, the Lion Guard returned to the Pride lands, weary but triumphant. The news of their victory spread quickly, and the animals of the Pride lands rejoiced. They were safe, thanks to the bravery and skill of the Lion Guard. As they approached Pride Rock, Simba and Nala greeted them with warm smiles and grateful hearts. "You have done a great service to the Pride lands," Simba said, his voice filled with pride. "You have proven yourselves to be true protectors." Kion smiled, but his gaze was drawn to Rafe, who stood slightly apart from the rest of the Lion Guard. He could see the apprehension in Rafe's eyes, the uncertainty about whether he would truly be accepted. Kion stepped forward and placed a paw on Rafe's shoulder. "Rafe," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "you have shown incredible courage and loyalty. You faced your past, and you chose the right path. You are a true member of the Lion Guard." A cheer erupted from the other Lion Guard members. Fully nudged Rafe playfully, while Best gave him a hearty pat on the back. Bunga leaped onto his shoulders, showering him with praise. Even Ono nodded his head in approval. The suspicion and distrust that had once divided them had vanished, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and respect. Rafe smiled, his eyes shining with joy. He had finally found a place where he belonged, a family that accepted him for who he was, despite his past. He had overcome the dark legacy of the Shadow Pride and emerged as a hero. He was no longer an outcast, but a valued member of the Lion Guard, a protector of the Pride lands. He had truly earned his place among them. The resolution was complete. The Pride lands were safe, and Rafe was finally home. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the Pride lands. Kion and Rafe stood side by side on Pride Rock, surveying their home. The Pride lands were peaceful once more, the threat of the Shadow Pride vanquished. Rafe took a deep breath, the air filled with the scent of fresh grass and the sounds of crickets chirping. "I never thought I could be this happy, Kion," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I never thought I could truly belong anywhere." Kion smiled, placing a paw on Rafe's shoulder. "You belong here, Rafe," he said. "You're a member of the Lion Guard. You're one of us." He looked out of the Pride lands, his heart filled with pride and hope. He had learned a valuable lesson from his experience with Rafe, a lesson that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. "My father always told me that everyone deserves a chance," Kion said. And he was right. Everyone deserves a chance to choose their own path, to overcome their past, and to become something better. He turned to Rafe, his eyes filled with warmth and understanding. You made the right choice, Rafe. You chose the path of courage, honesty, and loyalty. And you proved that even someone with a troubled past can become a hero. Rafe smiled, his eyes shining with determination. I won't let you down, Kion, he said. I'll always be there to protect the Pride Lands, to stand by your side, and to uphold the circle of life. As they stood there, silhouetted against the setting sun, Kion knew that the Pride Lands were in good hands. He had found a true friend and ally in Rafe, a lion who had overcome his past and embraced a brighter future. And he knew that as long as they stood together, the Pride Lands would always be safe. The final scene faded, leaving a sense of hope and the enduring message that everyone deserves a second chance. The end.